It's now time to call this meeting to order. This will be our 14th meeting of the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee on July 23rd, 2026, starting at 5:32. All right. So I will make an announcement. We're going to change the order of the agenda. So items number 7 and 8 are going to be switched. And we're doing this so that we're going to have more information when we are going to be talking about future agenda items. So those two items will be reversed. We'll start out this evening by welcoming those who wanted to come and speak. I have 3 cards. If there's more, just let me know. Let's start with Anthony Nagy. You'll have 3 minutes, and John Chapman, Long Range Planning Manager, is going to time you. Thank you.
I have it written, so we'll see how long it takes. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are the committee of citizens deliberating and responsible for preparing the plan for the next 20 years of Arlington's future. My name is Anthony Nagy, and my wife and I have lived at 1000 Curtis Court for 45 years. We are both members of Caring for God's Creation Ministry at Most Blessed Sacrament Catholic Church. Arlington is our home. Both myself and members of our ministry have previously asked for your consideration of sustainability in your planning efforts. That means consideration for clean air, clean water, and care of our shared habitat. In other words, don't do harm to the environment that can't be renewed. I am speaking to you tonight because I wanted to give you some feedback. I had the opportunity to review volumes 1 and 2 of the written draft of the document to be known as Innovate Arlington. I have it. I concentrated on finding items addressing sustainability. I skipped over land use, development, and revenue. In volume 1, page 28, I confirmed that the purpose of the comprehensive plan is to build a resilient, prosperous, and sustainable city for current and future generations. To help gather knowledge for the endeavor, the community was asked for input to the plan. A summary theme gathered from community input, page 42, is sustainability and healthy. The understanding of the community input is stated on page 62 and indicates that the community would like parks, green spaces, infrastructure resilience, stormwater systems, environmental sustainability, climate resilience, clean energy, and natural resource and watershed stewardship. In a nutshell, sustainability and security. I like the big moves on the following pages 63 and 64, especially big move number 2. Prioritize sustainability, resilience, and protection of natural resources. Big move number 3 is to become the coolest city in Texas by mitigating urban heat impacts, expanding tree canopy and shade, reducing impervious surfaces, and promoting cool, green roofs. Big move number 4, is to promote resource-efficient practices for property owners and new development. It's almost over. In volume 2, I concentrated on pages 36 and 39, where near-term actions to achieve sustainable and healthy objectives are pointed out. In particular, page 37 looks good. I will let you read it to see what it says because I am running out of time. My viewpoint is that so far, things are looking good. Thank you for your time and effort on this endeavor. I now yield any remaining time to my fellow ministry members.
Thank you for speaking tonight. We are unable to comment on any of the guest speakers because they're not on the agenda, but thank you very much for coming. All right, next we have Dan Gappert.
Thank you. I'm Dan Geppert, live in North Arlington, and I'm not much of a public speaker, but there's a couple things I want to mention. Since I live in North Arlington, when we go up to HEB area for different things, we either go up 157 or closer to our house is to go up Greenbelt, which is through the river bottoms. And if you go through any time in the mid to late afternoon, when Bell helicopter lets out, there'll be a line of cars from Green Oaks all the way, essentially almost all the way to Trinity. And I think in the past there was a 4-lane, almost like a highway. I mean, there's nothing in there but river bottom, so there weren't going to be any intersections. And I understood years ago when Dr. Cluck was mayor that he engineered having that removed from the city plan. At least that's what he promised his friends. But I think that's a mistake. There's going to be 200 or 300 cars sitting there idling as they slowly move through as the light allows. That's a lot of pollution and a lot of wasted gas and wasted time for those people. Recently, I was going that way at about 5:20, and there was a string of 8 or 10 cars coming up north on Fielder that were stopped at that light where Fielder dead ends at Green Oaks. And when the light changed for them, every one of them turned and went up Greenbelt. So there's people that live in Arlington that work up that way, and there's people up that way that live in Arlington and work whatever, both ways anyway. I think I know it's pretty much all in Fort Worth, but I know that this city has to work with Fort Worth, and the other end would be HEB probably. I'm not sure about who Trinity is right there, but the cities have to work together, but that's a big traffic issue that needs to be looked at and would save a lot of people time and energy costs. The other thing I wanted to mention, and I see I don't have a lot of time left, is sustainable plastic remediation, basically getting rid of single-use plastics as much as we can. I understand that the city of Austin has done away with single-use plastic bags like at grocery stores, and if they can do it, we could too. But just a way of getting rid, I think everybody's aware that there's plastic trash throughout the world, and the ocean has this big island of plastic trash that's developed in the Pacific. And probably you all know that plastic gets broken down into macroparticles and nanoparticles, and our bodies are full of these nanoparticles. Research is too early to tell what bad things it's doing, but you can guarantee it's doing bad things to us. Waiting until we know that it's going to kill us is like waiting until we know that tobacco is bad for you. We really should start trying to work on reducing plastic. And I am out of time. Thank you.
Thank you for coming and sharing with us. We appreciate your comments. Next, we have Suzette Chairs.
I typed it up and then I timed it and it was way too long, so I'm going to read part of it and wing part of it. My name is Suzette Chaitis, and I go to Most Blessed Sacrament Church, and I do my best to advocate for the homeless. So I'm going to start by just mentioning the World Cup. The world has seen the beauty of Arlington, the kindness of our people, the amazing food, our welcoming others from all over the world, from the heart. We are hospitable, and the whole world saw it. But my friends, we have blessed work to do. While all these amazing things were happening, Many of our homeless were forced to keep moving from one place to another to basically hide for the World Cup. I want to tell you about Henry. Henry is homeless. He's a thin little man, very humble, very grateful for everything. He lost his job. He lost his home. One night he was sleeping on the ground and someone threw a brick on his head. He ended up having major surgery on his head, the area of his brain, at Arlington Memorial Hospital. He got thick metal stitches all the way down his head. When he was discharged, they didn't send him to a place to recover. They put him back on the street in this terrible heat. I got a call from a homeless woman saying he wasn't even walking straight. So we found out, we collected money from our church, put him in a motel for more than 2 weeks and made sure he had food. When he got out, the city took we had given him a sleeping bag and a tent. The city took it, sleeping bag, tent, bike, all we gave him, and all of his belongings. I could tell you so many more stories like that. One homeless man, John, a vet, a Marine, 6 feet tall, the strongest looking one of all, had a heat stroke, 109 degrees when he made it to Arlington Memorial Hospital. He died. I asked the ICU nurse, how much water do the homeless need to drink during our intense heat in these Texas summers? She said, all day. Can you offer a cup of cold water to one of the least among us? The City of Arlington needs a coordinated effort to become more housing focused and to provide services to the homeless, to offer an office that provides for the homeless. We can make a huge difference in the lives of others, especially in the poorest of the poor here in Arlington, those who suffer with no food, water, clothes, and no home. So I want to inspire you to do what you can to make a significant impact in their lives. And you know we have an Arlington Life Shelter. You probably also know by now that you have to have 2 IDs and no criminal background to be able to stay there. Unfortunately, most homeless people have criminal trespass and drugs, some of them. And so that knocks out nearly 100% of all the people we see on the streets. So what do we want to do in the city of Arlington in the immediate future to help these human beings to be treated with the dignity and respect that we treated all the World Cup people with? So I want to encourage you to Google the City of Dallas website, the words homeless solutions. They have a web page where the homeless can go to get help. There's a group called Housing Forward in Dallas that has a homeless crisis helpline. And I could tell you more about that, but I want to run out of time. So even the Union Gospel Mission in Fort Worth is now housing focused. In Austin, a Catholic man started Community First Village on the outskirts of Austin. You can go to mlf.org. It says the village has been designed to encourage community. Each home has a front porch, and homes are clustered around areas with laundry rooms, restrooms, a movie area for community, and green spaces. So these shared areas encourage interactions among neighbors, helping them form relationships and build community. It currently is home to more than 420 formerly homeless neighbors. And when all this is completed, they're going to provide housing for 1,900 people who have struggled to survive on the streets of Austin. They also have a place where ladies can make gift cards and men can make steelworks, and they grow food in a garden. So I just want to say, someday, when I look in the eyes of Jesus, and hopefully you too, I want to say to him that I did my best, dear Lord. All these people now have food, something to drink, clothes on their back, and a comfortable place to lay their head. We planned it with your great love and mercy, dear Lord, because you said, Jesus, whatever you do to the least of my brothers, you do to me. I just want to encourage us to do something significant for these people. I see them every day. Somehow I'm a magnet for these people. And I can't drive by. I mean, all the time, and so you know also, there's no place for their dogs to go. The homeless people have dogs and cats, usually dogs. Those dogs suffer so much. They usually don't even put out a bowl of water or food. So in your planning, please, right now they say, oh, we can take them to the Arlington animal shelter. Well, who's gonna take them there? And who wants to be separated from their pets? I don't know if you have a pet, but that's all they have. Anyway, I just want to encourage you to do more, and if there's anything I can do to help, I want to give you my phone number, 817, if anybody wants to write it down, 817-247-8527. I want to do everything I can to help these people because I see their suffering every day. They don't have food, they don't have a place to go to the restroom. I mean, all the basic things you would want for a human that we wanted for all the World Cup people. Let's do it for our people here at home. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming and telling us about your story. Do we have anyone else that didn't have a card that wants to speak this evening? No one else? Okay, we'll move on then. At this time, John Chapman, Long Range Planning Manager, will provide any updates to the comprehensive plan.
Let's see, there we go. All right. Good evening, committee members, chair. Great to see y'all again. I hope everyone's having a good summer. A couple of items that we're going to be going over tonight. I'll provide some updates. We'll go over the small area place type fiscal assessment with Eric Strand here from MIG. We'll also go over the preferred growth scenario map overview. We'll go through I think this actually might be an old one. I apologize. Several things. Project updates. So we stand here between quarter 2, quarter 3, still with that upcoming public engagement in August. At the end of today's meeting, I'll have a full briefing as to where and when we're going to be with all of the town halls that we have scheduled with our council members, as well as the citywide virtual event on September 1st. Y'all are aware that we've gone through 2 phases, and we're currently in phase 3, the review and adoption phase that began in February with a lot of behind-the-scenes work and will continue into 2027. Past engagement by the numbers as we're entering phase 3. In phase 1 and 2, we had over 118 engagement activities between online community surveys, pop-up events, board game sessions, meetings with y'all, stakeholder interviews and focus group meetings, civic group meetings, governing body briefings, and over 400,000 impressions between online and utility mailers. That's seen over 2,000 individuals as well through that. Phase 3, we have 17 plus engagement activities already planned with the first draft. Is we had 8 info sessions completed. Last week, we saw some of y'all at the Rotary of Arlington presentation, which had a great turnout of 69 resident members. So appreciate everyone in the room and for getting us there. All right. So some Innovate Arlington Public Draft Plan initial feedback. And one note, Ellie is unable to make it. So you'll see in the slides that Ellie Schaefer is noted. She had an emergency, and so she was unable to be with us here tonight. But Eric Strand with MIG is still here. So our cadence is a little off, but we'll get through it. So some initial comprehensive plan steering committee feedback. We sent out a survey last week. That survey will remain open, so feel free to utilize that as y'all wish. We asked about some strengths and potential opportunities that we should look at and acknowledge as a team. So some of those early strengths were the chapter resource videos. We do hope that those are very helpful. The Office of Communications is going to revamp that voiceover, which was me. So I'm personally happy that my voice isn't going to be heard by everyone in Arlington. So it'll be the Arlington voice. We'll continue to revamp those videos, but they will be a resource to our residents as they are given the plan, much like how it was a resource for y'all during your review of the plan. So we're excited about that. The executive summary was noted as an early strength, user references in the introduction, our vision framework and the ideas lab and how those two connect and communicate with each other, the potential UDC amendments, which is found in volume 2, our implementation priorities, measure how we're going to be measuring progress, and I believe there's still a lot of work to do in there, and then how it covers a wide scope of ideas and topics. Potential opportunities included reviewing land use tables and place types, which we've also, since this feedback came in, have been reviewing and have started to make some adjustments to those linkages between our place types, land uses, and zoning district cross-sections that we'll prepare for y'all at our next meeting. Preferred growth scenario map, particularly looking at the Southwest Arlington, our urban neighborhoods, traditional and connected context zone boundaries, more emphasis on grade-separated railroad in the downtown area, highlighting key active transportation and transit projects and goals, more emphasis on the I-30 deck park, beginning to consolidate words and paragraphs where possible. Now we have a big document. Where can we start consolidating, making things flow a little bit better, and then creating those additional reader guides to get people to the topics and areas that they have the most interest in so that we can start getting the balls rolling. We were planning to do a Mentimeter. Ellie was going to be running the Mentimeters, as I mentioned in my email. However, she is not here. So instead of doing the Mentimeter polls, Chairman, if you will kind of help us work through some just open room discussions. I'll walk us through these questions. Anyone would like to begin, just raise your hand, give us your name, then just we'll get the ball rolling. Staff is here to take notes and certainly answer any questions y'all may have. Do you agree or disagree with the strengths and opportunities? And I can flip back to that last slide. Why do you disagree? Should the committee discuss any of these further? What other strengths and opportunities for improvement would you suggest? So essentially on this slide, for discussion's sake, on this slide right here, do we generally agree with some of these early on strengths and certainly the potential opportunities that we need to explore? Do you find any of those numbers 1 through 7, certain areas that we really need to bring back to the committee and provide some deeper insight to, or any feedback related to those that y'all might have?
Mr. Frawley.
Thank you, Bill Frawley. One of the things that I would like to emphasize is the potential opportunity number 5, the more emphasis on the I-30 deck park or deck cap, whatever it's been called at different times. One of the things I'd like to emphasize on that is the opportunity to do what's called connected communities. I know Federal Highway Administration, USDOT, actually has some grants that are available. Other agencies have grants to where you can do something that connects different communities. And so we all know that I-30 is kind of a canyon or a separation, if you will, and playing on the strengths of what's going to be happening in what's, I guess, been called Lincoln Square previously, but as well as the entertainment district and things across I-30 that would tie all that together and make it a more of a cohesive community in North Arlington and Arlington overall. And again, bring another kind of tourist, if you will, destination with the park on top of I-30. I accidentally was going up Collins Street on the second to the last World Cup event and noticed as far north as like almost Chick-fil-A $50 parking, which means people are walking from there down to the stadium. And it's that way for Cowboy games and other things too. So there are people walking that distance. And so to have something where it's even more enjoyable, amenable, whatever, to cross I-30 with a deck park type thing like Clyde Warren Park in Dallas or the new one they're either doing or have done near the zoo. I think that would be a really big thing to emphasize, but not just for the sake of having that, but tying those parts of the community together and then seeking some grants to help fund that.
Thank you, Mr. Farley. Can you? No, that was perfect. Can you go to that next slide that has the questions on there?
Yep.
There we go. Okay. Who else? Nina.
Thank you, Ken. Nia Henderson. I'm very curious. As I was reading the plan, I kept going, how are we going to measure this? How are we going to manage that? That's too big for my brain. On other boards or committees that I've been on, perhaps it's a strategic plan. There's a huge monster spreadsheet with multiple layers that tells you, yes, we've ticked that box, not that one. And then it gives us a score of we're 20%, 40%, 100% where we wanted to be so that we stay in balance. I can't wrap my head around how the city is going to manage this once we create it. I don't know about folks in the gallery, but I don't understand that. And I would like to be able to be empowered with a way to communicate with the public how we will do that because of other cities near us and the lack of trust for groups like ours who are doing well, and we put a great bold idea out and then a bunch of money gets acquired and nothing happens. I really don't want to see this happen for Arlington. And so my query isn't necessarily about that. It's just there's a thing on there that says measuring progress. And I think that's so important for the citizens of our community to know that, yes, we're doing it, or we're getting closer, or we need more information, or who do you know that wants to work and contribute in this category that we're working on? Because the plan is so beautifully comprehensive. I need that resource, and I think at all of these public events, we need that way to communicate. How is that going to happen? What are the checks and balances, and can we go look at that 10 years from now, 5 years from now? 19 years from now. That's my query from this information because, wow, it is beautiful and brilliant. And I want to just say to everybody on the committee, and specifically the folks at MIG and Jency and John, wow. From this meeting, us meeting for a year and a half, y'all came up with that. It's overwhelming. And it's marvelous to have a part of this and to look forward to being in my 80s and having had something to do with this. So thank you all so much for this opportunity and the foresight. So that's two things from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Nina. Okay. Anyone else? I'll just put my, go ahead, Anthony, yes.
Anthony Powell, and I'll just make a couple comments. I'll echo Nina's comments about the plan and the efforts coming together. I still think, there's some additional things that we can emphasize, and so, to the point of the opportunities, one of the ones I'll mention is the idea of maybe some more assertive language, and we talk about the grade separated, crossing in downtown, but I think it's currently phased or stated more like study it, and I think, what I've sensed around the community is that there's almost universal support for providing better crossing. How we do it is a question, that's for sure, but it really needs to be more than just study. I think we need to make a commitment and assertive language to say that this is something we're going to commit to, going to be innovative about it, perhaps how we do it, and then, figure out the details. But as I understand it, we already have some money. I believe, it's been posted through the city council that there's a build fund that's given us, $6.4 million to help study the crossing. So, we've got that accomplished already. We could already check that off. So we need to go beyond just study. We need to say assertively how we're going to make it happen. I'd also just add to what Bill was saying about the I-30, the deck park opportunity there, that, echo, many of the comments that he had. But I think it's this concept of, being connected and allowing the development south of 30 to be connected to future development north of 30 that is being planned in areas between, say, Collins and Center and there's already the Champions Park area that's there. So I think there's a number of things that we can do. And then also, Mr. Nagy, to your comment, this idea of parks and sustainability, the concept of, we're very proud of our park system within the city of Arlington. And I think if we use the architectural design to create something that really would support, additional green space in that area would be a draw for, people both north and south there along I-30, and would be something that we could be proud of 20 years from now. So I think architecturally, we can design it such that it's not, it doesn't produce some of the negatives perhaps that might exist with the tunnel area down at Clyde Warren Park, but I think we can create something that turns out to be really positive for the city.
Mr. Columbus.
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, I reviewed almost all the videos, John, and I thought that they were very helpful in a perspective of looking at from just the ordinary citizen out there that had not been too much involved. I thought it flowed very well as to helping someone understand the Innovate Arlington plan. So I commend you guys on putting that together, and I look forward to the AI voice that y'all incorporate on that. As far as the potential opportunities, maybe y'all are already trying to incorporate this through reviewing the land use tables and the preferred growth scenario, but I believe that overall, I still have a feeling that this plan just allows for the potential of too much density, future growth in Arlington, including the missing middle housing, allowing duplexes and triplexes and quadplexes and probably the majority of the single-family neighborhoods, particularly in the East Arlington area. So I would like to, maybe that's what's going to be addressed in what's already up there for potential opportunities in that area. And a component of that would be right now we allow garages to be closed in. And if you'll notice in East Arlington, if the house is a certain age, it just is allowed to close in the garage. Well, that just pushes another bedroom, another person living in that house, and another car that pushes everything out to the streets. And I think that, we need to look at that and maybe just not allow closed garages at all. The other thing, economically, I think that would help for Arlington would be some of those smaller houses that are, 3-bedroom, 1-bath. If you allow that garage not to be converted, well then, right now, it adds instant equity to the flipper or the person that owns the house to close in the garage. It's an immediate sellable space, and it puts more money into their pocket. But if you don't allow that, well, then maybe the consideration is that maybe that house really needs to be torn down and a new build go in there instead. So economically, you have that additional decision to be made on those smaller 3-bedroom, 1-bath houses that are, built in the 50s and the 60s. So that's my thought on that. And then the other last thought is that looking at the plan, the near-term actions and the big ideas, there seem to be some things in the near-term actions that were not in the big ideas page. And I thought that we should, anything that's a near-term action should have at least been on the big ideas page section. And then we take any ideas out of that section, and then we put them into near-term actions, or maybe we take them all and, like Nina said, we rank them and say we're going to do some, prioritize them or something like that. So maybe that's what we need. We need an exercise to prioritize all the near-term actions or the big ideas as a group, so that we can, as a group, recommend to the council that, these are what we think are the most important ideas. So anyway, those are my 2 or 3 thoughts.
Okay. Victoria.
Victoria Farr-Myers. I want to echo the measurement issue that was brought up by Ms. Henderson. I really was looking for, and I guess strategic plan-wise, and when you look at Arlington's other strategic plans, there's usually near-term or low-hanging fruit, mid-term, and then stretch goals. Not seeing that and only seeing near-term, I really feel like it's very limited in a sense of allowing us to track it for a full 20 years. And it doesn't breadcrumb how we move from like the low-hanging fruit to like the little harder stuff to the real big stuff. Especially when we're talking about a city that's under redevelopment, I think those longer-term goals are going to be important to provide a vision, not only for developers, but a vision for how we innovate and do things within our neighborhoods. For example, like the map of Arlington Life Cycle, for example, it shows stability in our neighborhoods, but we all know that some of our neighborhoods need to be redeveloped. We talk about different ways. And so I think that gives a false sense that there's stability there, where I think if we're really going to talk about redevelopment and innovation, that needs to be tied in with those longer-term sort of initiatives and how that might happen, so that someone might come along and say, okay, I'm going to take this neighborhood and I'm going to redevelop that into different types of housing or infill housing or other things. Also, especially as it correlates to, and I'm very happy to hear you say that you're going to do district by district place type maps, because I think it's really important on a granular level, especially for, as a former council person, being a council member, sitting there, or even a P&Z member, to be able to overlay someone's idea with that place type is going to be incredibly important, because if those place types are our vision of what we want to see the city in 20 years, I don't want to see it go away within the first 2 or 3 because someone makes a persuasive case at the dais. I think I was looking more, and you said we have an executive summary here, so maybe like this also deals with, but I've been kind of beating the drum of we need catalyst projects, at least one identified in each of the areas of the city. I was looking for that in the executive summary. I don't see it yet. It may be here, but I do think it's extremely important that we have those big stretch projects. I know that, again, from a policy maker perspective, that is really helpful to be able to measure yourself to. And maybe those are the big stretch things. Like, for example, you mentioned Collins Street. I drive that all the time, and I was sad that the World Cup people had to drive by every closed building on Collins Street, including Anthem, including the Condom Place, including the Monarch Dental. You know, there's so much that was just, that makes me sad. That's a gateway to our city. And I know there's plans, but let's call those plans out. I totally agree with the assertive language. There's too much passivity in this plan. It's all, we're planning to plan. I want language that says we plan to implement this. And so I really like to see more of that. Also, we have a ton of plans that are already been written in our city that could easily be, and I put that in air quotes, because basically what I'd love to see is this become the plan of plans, where every plan that's ever been written in the city that you still active, whether it's a neighborhood plan or it's a thoroughfare plan or it's a hike and bike plan, I'd like them connected to what we envision, so that we know, for example, this plan may be 15 years old. It does need updating more, and maybe that's the first direction we take. You talk about a transportation plan, I'd still say I'd love to see the word mobility in there as well, right? Because to me, transportation plans and mobility plans are different. So I'd love to see that kind of tying back to the plans, because it also gives our citizens an ability to understand the work that's already been done over the decades, right? That maybe just hasn't. We have a transportation plan, but we took step 1. We've not taken any other step in that plan. That should be, highlighted, and we should use that good research and work that's been done by city staff over the years to scaffold and build that larger set. Also, one of the things that I was thinking about here is innovate and thriving. I was looking at the big moves, and I agree with Mr. Chalambis that the big moves need to be tracked to what those. At least if we create a much larger set, perhaps this will be rectified. But one of the things that struck me, and I sat back and after I read this and I thought, this title of this plan is Innovate Arlington. What's innovative about it? What's going to be innovative for us? And I want everyone that leaves every meeting we have, and I want to be able to, as a committee member, say, these are the innovative things that in 20 years, if we do our job and we do all of these things, this is what it's going to look like. And that's more than just giving a place type map. So I think that's something that I ask myself that, and maybe I'm being unfair to myself, because I think there's some tremendous work. I mean, there's so much here that's almost overwhelming. And so I'm trying to make it digestible, but to myself, and I've been with you for 18 months. So how can we make this digestible to the public so they understand this is the vision of where we're going, and this is how we're going to start to get there. And last but not least, I would just say the last thing that I really wanted to kind of think about is this notion of, and I think I've actually talked a little bit about this. Yeah, I've talked about the last part about the relationship with the other plans. So those are just some things that I've been thinking about, trying to digest, trying to pull apart. And I really want us to think, when we take this to the public, the presentation we heard to the council was a little ambitious. And I would very much like it to be much clearer. So maybe some of the things we're talking about tonight, where it's sort of like, this is the big vision. These are the big projects. This is what these sectors of the city are going to look like. This is not like, let me give you every place type in the world, but this is what the kinds of development we're going to look at. And almost, and again, maybe it's the teacher in me, so please take it for what it's worth. I just think that we need that kind of discussion in order for us to really roll up our sleeves and be able to say, yeah, this is what we meant. So thanks so much for listening. I appreciate it.
Mr. Frawley?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more thing, and I think it kind of brings together a lot of the things that people have been saying, including some of the people that spoke from the public. It popped to me while listening. I spent 30 years helping different metropolitan areas do transportation plans, okay? And sometimes cities doing some certain types of plans. I also spent 35 years working with youth groups. And so what I would ask the kids in the youth groups and adults, and I would ask people at these metropolitan planning organizations and other places, is when you do a plan or you decide you're going to go take on something, ask this question. It sounds snarky, but it's not meant to be. So what? What impact is this going to have over 5 years, 3 years, 7 years, whatever it might be? And I think bringing together a lot of what's been said, if that was a question, whether it's written out or if it's kind of in the background in the minds of the people working on all this, all right, mobility or transportation or open space, whatever it is, so what? What impacts will this document have in 3 years, 5 years, so on, incrementally? And that gets back to the measuring things. That gets back to, is it really going to be something that's an impact? I did 3 years in Florida in my early career where comprehensive planning was required by state law for cities and counties. We had to update our plans. We had to, and you had to go back and look, and it had to be implementable and such. I think that might be part of what could be worked into the so what, or what impact is it going to have? Thanks.
Mr. Oldroyd?
Hi, Taylor Oldroyd. I appreciate the comments that have been made, and I was maybe going to ask my question later, but maybe it seems a little more fitting here, because I know since we met last, we did the presentation to the city council, and I was there, and I guess frankly, they seemed overwhelmed. I mean, there was a lot of head scratching and kind of eyebrow lifting, and it just seems like there wasn't the buy-in, and I'm a little bit nervous going to the public. I mean, there's a lot here. We've all been sitting here, and we're still trying to digest it. There's a lot, and I think it's fantastic. And it is innovative, and we're kind of pushing the envelope on a few things. My fear is we do all this work, we hear the public, and then the council just doesn't get the buy-in. So yes, I want metrics and I want it aligned with other plans. I guess the opportunity here, I guess I'm trying to tie it to this potential opportunities. We've got to do more educating with the council, because that one session that we had, they had a lot of other things on the agenda, and they had to get through, and some of the council members that are fairly new said, hey, help me understand this. So as we go through the city town hall meetings, I think that's maybe the so what is none of this will get any traction if we don't get the council members to adopt it. And they might right now just say, yeah, that's great, you guys did a good job, but I need them to take ownership here. And, well, I shouldn't say I need it. I think for the plan needs it, you guys know what I mean. So I think the opportunity is between now and the town hall meetings is we need to educate the council members as well. And I don't know how we do that, maybe more work sessions. And I know there's a town hall meeting in each district, and I'm assuming the council member will be there to help host that and things like that. But I don't want all this work to go collect dust on a shelf because they don't understand it or they haven't taken the time to be educated about it. And anyway, I guess that's my hope is that the opportunity is we educate the council members so that they feel the accountability of it. And I mean, this process has been robust, so let's get their buy-in on it so that we can actually get some of the big ideas and other low-hanging fruit and all through the whole plan that we get that.
Okay, Nina?
I have two questions again. Nina Henderson. Well, one is just a comment to share with us and whoever's watching. I heard someone who's a leader in our city say, I'm not just making sure that we are a city, I'm making a skyline. And for me, I immediately went, oh yeah. We've been so busy, I've been so busy zooming in that I forget to look at the big picture and to look all the way out at where we fit in between the cities that surround us. And so what is that skyline? And what is that, not just the 360, the I-30 park, but how do we fit into the other places around us? And so that comment made me start to think in a different way, and thankfully Victoria's comments helped as well. So I wanted to share that with everyone here. And I also want to ask, because the rules of our committee, I don't really understand, could I sit down with my council person and go over one segment of the plan, and then could Michael meet with a council person? Like, could we schedule with a council person 1 hour a week for the next 5 weeks so that we can help them understand not just the language, but the way that we're seeing this so that they can see it? Is that allowed? Because I know we can't have a quorum, or what's our minimum and what's our requirement? I need to know that so I can do a good job.
Minimum quorum is 10. So yes, you are more than welcome to have meetings with the council members that appointed each of you, two of which are new. So I certainly encourage, if you've not already, or if that council member hasn't already reached out to you, to certainly do so. Their assistants have everyone's contact information. And so, yes, you can certainly do that. It's a great opportunity now that we have something tangible that we can flip through pages together. I think it's a great idea.
And we can share it with them now?
Yes, they have their
have it.
binders as well.
Wow. Okay, cool. Thank you.
And they had the videos. We've gotten great feedback from them.
Okay. So I'll just say it's a very deep plan. It's a lot to read, and it's like drinking from a fire hose. Even I have a hard time sometimes struggling, figuring out, going from chapter to chapter, going back and forth. I think that perhaps for council, it will just take them a little bit of time for it to soak in. And I do think that's a wonderful idea for us to reach out. I have talked with Mayor Ross, and I'm going to be meeting with him sometime next week. So reach out to your council members and talk with them, and maybe help educate them as much as anything. So the plan has a whole lot of strengths. It covers so many different areas. In the areas of the city that need some improvement, that need some investment, one of the things that, I don't know where it is in there, but I know there's some discussion about townhomes, condos, apartments, those things showing up in single-family neighborhoods. And so what I would like to have us look at in this plan or discuss is, can we have on the major thoroughfares that are going through those areas, townhomes, condos, multifamily, triplexes, small business on the more major corridors that will not affect the surrounding neighborhoods, but only on the major streets or the collector streets going into those? Because, we need some improvements and we need some things that will start to help improve. But that was one idea that I didn't know how that would be put in there. But there were a couple of areas that need some investment, and that may be a way that we could look at that. So overall, very, very good. It's so deep, and we have to remember this is a draft. So all of our suggestions are going to be added to and added to and added to. And I've been taking notes, so at the end of our meeting, we will be looking at making our next agenda items, and we're going to look at these and see what we need to discuss in the next meeting. I will say that the council gave us the task of coming up with an actionable plan. And so when we look at the big moves, those are actionable plans. What I would like to see, I'm a list guy, and if you just have a list, a long list, even longer, I know they can't all fit in that segment in the table, but just a list of one-liners about these are all the things that we can do underneath this category. Just keep going, keep going. Because, if you have choices, you know what to pick. And so if we see all the possibilities, doesn't have to be long, doesn't have to be detailed. In fact, I think council will probably read it pretty well, because council will probably be able to read one line and be able to pay attention with all the other stuff that they have going on. So, just action items. I know that some people, some seminars have 101 ways to improve your business, something like that. Maybe scaled down for each of those categories, but something like that I think would be very, very helpful. But overall, really deep, deep plan. There's so much to it. And I think if we refine these things and we add these things, we add the measurements, we look at the railroad crossings, we look at getting the land use tables sorted out the way that we think they want. We get the long-term goals set up. And we look at the near-term actions and how that could be phrased in a different way or put in a different place or come up with just like the long list under each category. But there's so many things that we can improve on, but there's so much there to start with. And for me personally, if I don't have a plan to look at, I don't know where to start. And so now we can look at it and we know what to improve. When you have a blank slate, it's really hard to get going. So, Taylor.
Yeah, Taylor Oldred, Ken, I appreciate because you jogged my memory on something I wanted to bring up, because I think this list is important. As we go into the public comment period, my fear is that each district is going to say, this is great, and I think you should do this everywhere else, but not in my neighborhood. Don't do it everywhere else. I think it's great. Just don't mess with us. We're all good. And I think that the way we get total buy-in is kind of connecting this with a list, an action item, but then the positive benefits. I mean, I know we've talked about housing and job creation, in the game, kind of going back without that. These certain steps and maybe it's in the place type details and stuff like that. Here's the benefits that's going to come out of it, and it's going to benefit the entire city, your neighborhood as well, or your area of town, so that people don't just say, hey, well, not in my backyard, everywhere else is great, do it for everybody else. So I think a little bit more of a connection there. And I think it probably, to Victoria's point about the executive summary, there's a lot of words there. There's a lot of words through all of it, and obviously you have to have words to describe it. I mean, we're wanting to accomplish a lot. So maybe in the executive summary, some more charts showing this, then that, and then here's the benefit. Because I've been to a lot of town hall meetings over a variety of issues, and it seems like generally it's, yeah, this sounds great, but do it everywhere else, don't do it here. And I really want the community to have buy-in in all the areas, because, yeah, as we grow and change, there is going to be some disruption. There's going to be some change. Housing type's going to have to change. I mean, just even some of the traffic, you're going to have to expand and grow, and that means some people might have to move, or businesses might have to be pushed back. There's going to be a lot of changes, and last point for me, not necessarily my last comment for the day, I still reserve the right, but I want to make sure that we're emphasizing here that I don't want the government competing with the private sector, and I'm not suggesting that it says that anywhere here, but I think the market drives a lot of this, and we're being innovative, and hopefully we're planting seeds that the market is doing a lot of this, that we're incentivizing that, and that this is not a hall pass for the government to, start implementing all this stuff and mandating how it's going to happen. No, let's hopefully we're planting the seeds that we're incentivizing the market to do a lot of these things and allowing them to use their entrepreneurial and innovative spirit to help us accomplish some of these things. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, one more.
Last comment, Mike DeLambus. While we're on the topic of measurable, what I'd really like to see, and I don't think I saw much of that in this plan, was when you're setting your goals, let's talk about reducing homelessness by X percent per year over the next 5 years. Let's plant, 1,500 trees by 2030 or something that we can set a number goal to so that we can better track that, or number sidewalks that we're going to build or rebuild over the next 5 years. How many miles of sidewalks, or whatever the measurement criteria is. I'd like to see a number, and for the next 20 years, so that we can see, okay, this is what our goal was, and this is how close we did, or we hit it out of the ballpark and we totally knocked this one out. And so, but maybe we need to focus a little bit more on something. We didn't meet our goal, and why didn't we meet our goal? So.
Okay, all right. We're going to move on now. So next, John Chapman and Eric Strand. Thank you for waiting, Eric. I know you've been there a long time. Economic consultant with MIG will provide the committee with an update regarding the focus areas and future planning areas.
Yeah, thank you all. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. Great to see you all. Very excited to be here virtually and contributing to this. So we wanted to talk about a few things that we've added to the plan in response to some past comments that we've gotten, just really to help make sure that some of the things that have come up through the market and fiscal work that we've done so far are really carrying through. And I think creating some lessons and actionable takeaways that we can use across the city, not just in some of the really specific areas that we looked at as illustrative examples. So there's a few things we'll talk through here. The success factors, which are the lessons from those two previous analyses that we can extract out. Some specific examples around sales tax leakage and what that means for Arlington. Looking at some specific incentives and tools that can help make some of these projects pencil. And then some additional potential future focus areas on top of that list that you've already seen of some of the initial ones we focused on. So first thing is what we're calling the success factors. Really, these are just the takeaways from those two previous analyses. So the market readiness analysis and the fiscal impact analysis, which focused on, just as you know, a very small handful of specific sites as kind of illustrative examples of what investment could look like. But we wanted to make sure that the takeaways from that are really clear to help inform how things happen elsewhere. So the first thing that really jumps out is that existing market strength, so how well things are already doing in a given area, is generally the clearest predictor of both the readiness for future development, both physically and economically, and typically also of the type or degree of fiscal return that the city is going to get from those developments. There are examples where sites that don't have a lot going on now can yield a large return, especially where there's a lot of strong infrastructure, highways with regional access, things that could quickly turn it into a destination. But those sites also typically have lower market readiness. There's less development interest now, and so there may be more need to invest on the city side or the public side up front. Another thing we're seeing here is that employment and destination-oriented development generally is where the city is going to be making the highest return for any sorts of projects. Obviously, residential development is important at a number of different scales. That's already been talked about here, and certainly is going to need to happen in a lot of places. But that has to come as sort of a trade-off where you recognize that the highest returns that help pay for the services and infrastructure investments are coming from some of these bigger destination types of commercial centers. We see that zoning capacity is a really important lever that can be either an accelerant or a barrier to the development at really any given site. The places that already have development zoning that's flexible to allow different types of development are really ready to move. They're, on the market side, there's already typically interest and investment flowing in. And there's just fewer regulatory hurdles that have to go through to make those projects happen. On the flip side, sites that have more constraints on the zoning or zoning that misaligns with what the site is best potentially used for, is where there's the greatest regulatory hangup that's going to make things slow down. So in terms of sort of proactive planning, like we're doing with the preferred scenario, using that as a way to guide zoning to really accelerate and encourage these projects is going to be one of the best levers that the city can pull to help make it happen. Similarly, infrastructure conditions set that pace. So places that already have strong infrastructure that's well maintained can really move quickly towards a catalytic development opportunity. Places that need either new infrastructure or improvements or expansions on existing infrastructure are going to just have to move a little bit slower. But proactive investments in those areas can really help set the stage so that you're not waiting on that then when the market does start to move. And that really brings to the last point, which is for the most part, the growth that we see here is going to be fiscally positive for the city in these and related sites. Where the city needs the most help is figuring out where and how to make those catalytic investments that make the emerging areas pencil, that make them attractive to the market, and that help make sure that development can move once the interest and the capital starts to arrive. Another thing we looked at is sales tax leakage. I know this has been a question that's come up a few different times. Just to kind of quickly define that. So leakage is essentially just what happens when people who live in Arlington decide to shop elsewhere. And as a result, both the sales tax revenue and just kind of the general economic benefits of spending money into the economy flow outside of the city. There is always leakage. Every city has it. It's inevitable to some degree, and not something that is necessarily an alarm. But too much of leakage happening, particularly in certain types of retail or certain parts of the city, can constrain the economy and potentially point to a situation where the mix of amenities locally is not meeting the demand that residents have. We see this more in cities like Arlington that are landlocked, surrounded by cities and commercial centers on all sides, just because it's a regional economy. There are always going to be things that draw people out. And there's only so much development that can happen when you're landlocked without a huge amount of commercial land available at the edges of the city. So things like, centrally located regional retail destinations and highly distinct local offerings are what really work well to help offset that risk, both keeping residents in Arlington to do their own shopping, but also then, of course, attracting other people from other cities that help offset any local leakage that's happening. So, treating those boundary sites that do exist as really strategic opportunities to draw in people from other cities and help make sure that people who are thinking about leaving have to pass something attractive on their way out is a really great way to keep that revenue local. Investing in those sort of distinct destination sorts of things that make Arlington really attractive for people to come to from across the region. Things like reinvestment in aging corridors, facilities, infrastructure, to make both the visual and the logistical experience of shopping in Arlington more pleasant and easier. And things also like a Shop Arlington campaign that helps really bring attention to local businesses is really helpful. That just make sure people both locally and across the region know what's there, have it on their radar, and are attracted to that opportunity. So all of this will be in the plan, but just wanted to give a little overview of it here as something really important for a city like Arlington that has that landlocked constraint that you can't do anything about.
You got a few questions, Victoria?
Sure.
More, 2 comments. One,
Okay.
thank you so much for doing this, because this is exactly what I wanted to see last time, and so thank you very much. I wanted to just say, I really appreciate you being more granular. On the sales tax leakage in particular, I just don't want us to seem like we don't listen to others. The Greater Arlington Chamber of Commerce has had a Shop Arlington, Shop Local campaign for a while. So where we can, and go back to the language that MIG has said to us, is we're in this particular portion, if we can tag partners, I think that would be really key to enabling this to make even more sense to the public as well. So I just wanted to, since I said a lot of stuff tonight, I just wanted to say thank you so much for making this much more enjoyable to hear. I appreciate you.
Absolutely, and that's a great point about tagging partners. Certainly, this is a multi-partner effort to do things like that. There's already a lot underway, so we can make sure to do that.
We have one more question. Bill Farley?
Yes, Bill Farley, on the sales tax leakage thing still, does transportation or mobility tie into that? And the example is, I live in far north Arlington. I can get to Northeast Mall quicker, and at least in my mind, easier, safer, smoother than going to Parks Mall. And part of that is driving down Cooper Street. Now, if you hit the signals right, great. But there's that 35-mile-an-hour speed limit that hardly anyone obeys, but some do. But no, it's not, unfortunately. It's beyond UTA. And I have a friend who drove Cooper Street from North Arlington to Mansfield this morning to go to a cardiac appointment. That friend reported back to me went upwards of 45, 50 miles an hour down Cooper Street, but not passing everyone. And so it's just interesting that there's a speed limit there, and sometimes it's more congested than others. But again, I'm guilty of the sales tax leakage sometimes because I'll go to Northeast Mall instead of Parks Mall sometimes.
All right, anyone else? All right. And go ahead, continue, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. That's a great point, and you're totally right that transportation, mobility, wayfinding and branding, all of those sorts of things can be really impactful on that as well. So it's certainly a multidisciplinary approach to help combat leakage. And then the last thing that I want to talk about here is just getting a little bit more specific about some of the specific incentives and tools that we're mentioning. This is really to help understand where the city has kind of policy and funding leverage to help drive the kinds of development and investment that it wants to see in certain areas, really getting granular with the place-based kind of attribute of that. And also understanding that, of course, there are trade-offs to using any combination of these things, which we go into in the plan. But things like, for example, tax increment reinvestment zones are a great tool for incentivizing investment in areas that maybe don't have a lot of market attention or market attraction at the moment. There is the downside, of course, that you're constraining municipal sales tax revenue in that area for some period of time. But that's one way that Arlington has already used in a number of different areas to attract that kind of investment. So expanding or reallocating those sorts of tools is an option. Things like the neighborhood revitalization strategy areas can help drive, specific investment into areas where the city wants to see it. And again, where maybe there is not investment flowing naturally. And, also traditional things like tax abatements even can be really helpful to that. So we go into these in more detail. I'm happy to talk to any of them a little bit more specifically if that's helpful, but generally just wanted to list out some of these for now to give you an indication that this is going to be part of what you see in the updated plan that brings it closer to that really implementable framework that I've heard a number of you talk about already here tonight.
Any questions to follow up?
Okay. All right. And Eric, I believe Ellie was going to take over from here, correct?
That seems right, yes.
All right. Do we have any, I think that was probably the last slide for Eric. So do we have any economic development type questions that, since Eric's here with us, that we might be, that's tied to these elements that we might want to just discuss or bring up while he's here before he kind of signs off? Anything else?
Mr. Siddiqui?
This is Aftab. I do have a question about DIRZ. Is the city already using DIRZ in different places? And what has been the experience of using this tool?
I may not call on, but some members in the room might know a little bit more than me. I believe we have 3 TERS districts around the city, one of which is the International Corridor. Another one is around downtown Arlington, and I think, is the third one Viridian? I think those are the 3. Oh, my
I
apologies.
think there's actually 4. There's downtown, there's the entertainment district, there's Viridian, and there's the East Pioneer Parkway area are the 4 that are currently active.
So yes, and Marty and his team, Lindsay and her team, Trey, city council members, it takes a lot to create a TERS, but we do have successful experience with them here in the city of Arlington.
Taylor?
Hi, Taylor Oldroyd. Question, I heard that maybe Gus is not going to be replaced. Is the city just shuffling some of the economic development part of the city? So not the EDC, but the city's part? Because, I mean, obviously, if we do get a new person or however those duties are assigned, we'll need to get them educated about what we're doing here as well. So I've just heard various things. So I guess my plug would be, however they do it, let's get them educated so we make sure we can use all the tools. Because I know EDC has some tools, the city has other tools. We need to make sure we're coordinating. So I think that position's still out, and I'll let y'all figure it out, but, okay.
It's definitely high on my priority list to make sure department heads are all clued in on the plan.
Yes, Nina?
Nina Henderson, because I harp on it so much, communication is key in this specific segment. I hear citizens complain about property tax, about sales tax, and I don't believe that we as citizens who are raising kids, taking them to school, doing our jobs, commuting, working, trying to be a part of our neighborhood and our community at large, and maybe take a vacation now and then, are thinking about the different types of tax and what it takes to run a city, which makes me remember some of our early meetings and how taxes work and what they do. I think educating our community members about what all the different taxes are and what they do and where that money goes and how it keeps us as citizens from having to pay more will help this work more effectively and people not NIMBY us on what needs to happen. I'm thinking as an example, and forgive using our neighbor in Midlothian, there's that beautiful cement plant that citizens of Midlothian love to complain about, and a steel mill. And I sat in an open house at a builder home, and people went, "Oh, but what about that beautiful eyesore down the street?" And I reminded him, your taxes are cheaper than mine in Arlington because that eyesore is making your taxes cheaper. And people just are not understanding where their dollars go. So I really would like for communication to be a key element about this, just as much as the plan and what we're going to do. Because we can tell them it's going to be beautiful, but they're not going to want to pay for it and take that money out of their pockets. Thank you for hearing me on that.
Anyone else? Yes, Robert.
Robert Snyder. And I was just wondering, are we going to go into more details about the incentives and tools in the document? Or is it just going to kind of be listed like this? Like, are we going to talk about some of the tax abatement programs that are funded through the state nationally? Some of the different ideas that were also already mentioned in here, those sorts of things, or is it just going to be like this?
Not every program, because they can change, and then that would require us to like, oh gosh, we got to go back in here so that there's not a miscommunication of what's available. But we point them to those partners, those regional and state agencies that provide those programs, so that they go to those agencies, those partners, and work with our economic developers and those teams to ensure that they're getting the best bang for their buck, we're getting the best bang for our buck. So it's making sure that the comp plan is at least a resource in the funding the vision chapter, making sure that we're clear. There's a landscape of investment dollars through a variety of spaces that don't necessarily rely on the general fund to get projects and the vision going.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Eric. We appreciate you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. At one of the final chapters, is we're talking about the built environment and really thinking about those catalytic projects and really elevating a lot of our existing area and corridor plans. One of the final chapters in the plan is called Plan Updates and Future Planning, Volume 2, Chapter 7. So we wanted to really explore that chapter a little bit more. In the draft that was presented, there was the last page that kind of just said forthcoming. And so in this next draft, you'll see a little bit more information about all of the existing plans, the catalytic potential that is yet to be realized in those plans, so that we're elevating that into the plan of all plans. We'll probably include the dates in which those plans were adopted, so that we can see and start to prioritize with City Council what needs to go next, so that all of that is just contained in Innovate Arlington Comprehensive Plan. So this map is simply a map of Arlington with all of our existing area and corridor plans. It would be, over the course of the next 20 years, as new area and corridor plans come online, they would be embedded into this map. The table that would be affiliated with this map gets updated with the unrealized catalytic potentials, the updated dates, and the description of the plan as well, to ensure that, as we've started talking from the very beginning, we're not starting from scratch. We're building from a very solid foundation and continuing a more focused trajectory. On the opposite side for Innovate Arlington, we've been talking about all the catalytic potential that's yet to be seen outside of the existing area and corridor plans. We've heard great ideas from community members, certainly the individuals in this room, some of which have been brought back up tonight. So in addition to this map, we will have another map, which is highlighting our additional catalytic opportunities to really elevate certain areas of Arlington where we've heard from y'all specifically, but as well as echoed through community engagement, some of these areas that residents and community members are seeking that investment to drive more catalytic potential throughout the area. The Bob Duncan campus site, we know that that's at end of life, and so something has to happen there. We've discussed the multicultural center for that being something that site could really utilize when we met with Parks earlier this year. The Johnsons Creek corridor between downtown and entertainment district, really making sure that shines as something that highlights how serious Arlington takes sustainability in our natural environment, but as well as providing that natural corridor in our central context zone of Arlington. Historical redevelopment of Division Street, also known as the Bankhead Highway, that's also in tandem with our existing corridor plan for Division. making sure that we really continue to focus on, this is something that was a catalytic project in 99 square miles that's yet to be seen, but making sure that we create that mixed-use campus focus, potentially on some type of biotechnology or medical industry as a gateway entrance near I-30. Our interstate deck parks, making sure that that's elevated. Areas around AT&T Stadium as well as the Rangers Stadium. There's a lot of hot pavement out there, especially in the summer. Those owners will do what they want, but everyone sees this as an opportunity of, we might be able to do something here. We see stadium mixed-use environments where everything can still function well all across the world. GM Financial, what can we do in that area? That's one of our longest-standing partnerships that contributes a lot to Arlington in terms of fiscally, but also for jobs. The Texas Trust Credit Union headquarters. But then here on the map, where we kind of have these bubble areas, it represents, I'll flip back, you can kind of see it. It really kind of highlights a lot of the empty spaces that this map does not look at. And it kind of ties together a lot of these areas of interest that we've been hearing from community members. And there will be a table alongside this map that highlights what some of that potential catalytic potential can be in these areas with future planning. Any questions?
Yeah, John, I just want to comment that I like this map a lot better than when you just had the darkened areas, the map that we had in our feedback, the little bubbles that you kind of expand that catalytic opportunity area. I like the little blurry bubble that you have here. It kind of expands the.
And we'll keep fine-tuning it.
Yeah, I like that.
Yes, go ahead, Victoria.
Thank you. Texas Trust, my understanding, it's already underway, so probably wouldn't want to put that for future unless it's going to drag out over a number of, given the fact that the colors are already going up, so maybe that's not necessarily good on that list. But we did also talk about something to take advantage of on Cooper Street, during the Cooper Street corridor near Parks Mall and in those big box regional area, because there's a lot of big boxes that have gone out in that area as well. So maybe that could be or thought to be considered, and maybe that, I don't know. I just didn't want to lose that comment that we had talked about for a little while, especially when it came up to like youth sports early on. There was some discussion about that and maybe, putting something like that. So maybe instead of leaking, again, going back to the sales tax leakage, we don't leak it to Mansfield, that we keep it here in Arlington. So I just wanted to kind of re-put that one back up on the map. And I just want to make sure that the I-30 biotech, I know that property, but I just reiterate what I said earlier about Olive Collins, just like we're thinking of innovatively creating the walkability between downtown Division and the entertainment district. Kind of also want to think about that when Anthem kind of gets redefined and we do the I-30, whatever that becomes. If we're thinking so much about a deck park, I really want to make sure we think holistically about that entire corridor as well. So just food for thought, throw it back out. Those are some things that was on the original list. I just didn't see them here. Thank you.
Nina.
My question is very simple. Is there a way to overlay, we call this an overlay, to actually overlay them so that it's not two different pages? We see one and then the other, because the public is going to want to see them actually overlay. This is what you're committed to, and these are the opportunities. Okay. I mean, we used to take a pretty picture and take a clear piece of plastic and put it over it with the other thing on it. Do we still do that? That's what I would love to see, something like that.
So combine these two maps, not have them separate?
Yeah, but have them separate, but be able to look at them individually and then stack them on top of each other. So
Okay.
he really doesn't know about an overlay. You
No, I
can
do.
show him,
I
Jincy.
do.
That'd be great. Thank you.
So similar to what we did with we had the place type map, then the context zone map, and then we sandwiched them together.
Yes. Yes, they do. So I think when we go to the public with this, that would be very beneficial if we don't have to, use a computer to do it.
And something on my mind on this. It's not here, it's not in front of y'all, but it's an idea, and I'll just kind of maybe take head nods, thumbs up, is part of the executive summary, I think, that could also ensure that council really has buy-in to the plan, that members of certain council districts understand kind of what the vision is for that area. Buy-in for that area is creating kind of a spread of that council district, building off of the place type map and the context zone information that we'll build for each of the place type, or each of the town halls. But building a spread essentially for each council district as part of the executive summary, where you can see a clear vision for here's what this council district is looking for, here's the characterization of some of those council districts. Southwest is far different than the northern council district in terms of character. So making sure that's elevated and clear at the front of the plan. I think that might be something that really helps secure buy-in, creates more predictable conversations. Okay, so yeah, we'll keep working for that. So look forward to that maybe at our meeting after public engagement. We'll get a lot of information at the town halls that will really kind of help bring that together. And then also highlighting in the executive summary using these spreads, the catalytic potentials within those council districts.
Just a quick question that reflects one of our guest speakers. While we've been sitting here, I looked up the homeless population for Arlington, and I don't know how accurate that population is. At 305 is the number from 2024. If we can identify that in location as well, to include that more specifically in part of the plan, because compared to Austin, Austin's homelessness is 20 times greater than Arlington, 20 times. Okay, so where is it happening and what do we need to provide? And to address mobility, addressing that on this map as well. Where are we seeing the clusters of that population and how do we serve them as a community as well as a city government? That would be, I think, beneficial. Thank you.
Anthony, did you have a question? No, good. Yes, Robert.
John, you kind of addressed what I was going to say, but I was going to ask if you could add the council districts to the maps or have an overlay so we can make sure that there are actually a project in each one of those districts. That's, we're here to represent everybody in Arlington, and so are the council members, and just want to be sure that we actually do that.
All right, we'll get to work on that, and I think that'll be a really good inclusion for the executive summary. All right, so we've kind of reached the end of this agenda item. So much like the last one, we just kind of have a question. And as I mentioned in my email, this will be something that we do more frequently to ensure that now that we have a document in front of us, we can really dig into it. Want to make sure that we have some more consistent feedback and communication loops between the document, y'all, the public, and the team. So do the Building the Vision, Chapter 1.4 updates, adequately address other opportunities for future focus areas. That would also include the maps and kind of the conversation we talked about as for what to include and look forward in the executive summary, just kind of in general, the future focus areas and other catalytic opportunities. And then are there any other changes or additions that we need to continue to think about and bring forward?
They're taking some time. Okay, Nina.
Since you asked the question, in the maps and overlays, because I love overlays, in those, I think when we go to the public, putting schools, not just AISD schools, but all schools in the overlays for those corridors that we're proposing to focus on for the next 20 years, where those schools are that we know of now, that will help some people understand and relate, because I meet more and more people who don't know anything about down at Calendar Road or Sublet Road or East Arlington. They can't picture, but they might know where schools are. And so that's a icon or placemaking, easy reference point for our community to relate to what we're talking about. So it may be too busy and too cluttered, but I think having it as an option would be beneficial. Thank you.
Victoria.
I know, sorry, Victoria Farmyers. I know the current draft has about the population growth and obviously the parameters that we utilized in the game and where we think it's going to go in the next 20 years. But one of the things I'm thinking about is, and again, I'll go to GIS layering. Does that help you better if I say it that way? Because the thing that I think is really important is to see where the influx of population is coming from. And it would be nice to somehow have, again, a map, an understanding of upfront in that area where you talk about the development of Arlington. Because I think a lot of people don't understand that most of our population, that growth is coming south of I-20. We have Viridian, but it's pretty much built out. So it's like, just to be able to have that clarity of sense. You got me thinking about that because we really don't necessarily, homelessness is dealt with different, we do have a homeless count that happens every year, and our faith-based groups and nonprofits tend to do a lot more work than the local government does on that. However, looking at population trends and looking at affordability of housing trends, because that whole chapter on affordable housing really helps, I think, again, make that understanding of how those place types might work. Because if HB, for example, if SB 840 becomes the bear that we think it may become, that also may relate to that. So some kind of map that looks at population trends and population growth. And that goes also, last point is, you made me think of it too, is because what the school district demographer says about where they think students are not going to be. Like I'm thinking of 76013, one of our oldest. There's a lot of folks graying in place because it's cheaper to keep your house than, it's just housing costs. So the question there would be, they're going to see less students, right? So they may make a decision about schools in neighborhoods that would be different than perhaps we would like as a city to see in terms of the kind of the flywheel of housing. We'd want to see that housing turnover, redevelop, bring in new families, and those new families would have kids, and therefore we would need those schools. So I think that would also help us marry a little bit of the language that is going to be out there already, because I think you're going to hear a lot about schools and downsizing and those types of things, and a lot of it is because of the changing in population demographic and having a better understanding for our city. So it answers like 4 questions in my mind. I'm sorry to like verbally answer my 4 questions back to you, but that's kind of like what I was thinking of. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah, Mike Talambas again. On the building the vision area, on the focus groups, I already expressed my concerns on a few of the areas in this during our commenting period. And I think this map that you're presenting right here addressed most of my concerns, because I was talking about expanding the Bowen Division Street corridor that you had of the little darkened gray in there. That's what you have basically done, or the Southwest Arlington at I-20 and Green Oaks and that. So a lot of my concerns, I think this map takes care of. One other concern that I did have that hasn't been incorporated is, we had the Catalyst project, or the focus area at Lamar and Collins. That the consultant did a deep dive analytical view on that, and I really think that we have an opportunity there still. It's not reflected here, but I think there's so much vacant land, the TxDOT land, where HEB is going, and even where Texas Health Resources is. I think we have a lot of opportunity there for a lot of growth in that area that wasn't incorporated into that analysis that they did at Lamar and Collins. There's a huge parking lot around Texas Health Resources. and it's just parking lot. So I think there's a lot of potential to do something in that area. And then, of course, I've frequently commented about my lack of support on the US 287 Harris Road focus area. I think we're off base there. I understand that we're trying to stop the sales tax leakage in that area, but the way the interstate is configured with Harris Road and Russell Curry, there's no commercial access to make it a viable commercial area for multifamily, or not multifamily, but mixed-use development for entertainment type of facilities. And I think that we're missing the mark there, and and I think we'll get into it a little bit on the next slide or the 2 slides in the future about the map, but I think that we still need to rethink that what we're proposing to do in that Harris Road, US 287 corridor.
All right, thank y'all. Any other comments?
Hi, Taylor Oldroyd. I've had this debate in my mind that whether this chapter was titled correctly. I mean, building the vision, I mean, this section, this is kind of the meat. I mean, this is a lot of the implementation and stuff like this. So I've just had this debate in my mind if it's titled strongly enough. I know we talked earlier about more kind of proactive language or, less. Think about it. I can't think of a better title, but I'm still not sold that it's titled correctly. And I don't know, maybe the consultants have better experience with this. But I mean, this is kind of the main chapter. I feel like it's where we're really getting into the meat and potatoes. But I can't think of a better title, but I'm not sure I'm sold that that's titled correctly. I like the content. I think it really is capturing everything. I don't know. I'm just not sold on the title of the chapter itself.
Would the committee prefer something that's more, it sounds more motional, like it sounds like there's some motion in the chapter related to building?
Well, I mean, I think what it's talking about is this is how you implement the plan. The vision, the previous chapters kind of spell the vision, and there's a lot of words and a lot of stuff. This is how you implement it, and so maybe that word needs to be in there somehow. I don't know, because we talk about measuring. You can't measure anything if you're not implementing anything. I don't know. Like I said, I've had this debate in my head, and I thought I'd just share that I'm not convinced this is the right title for this chapter, but I don't know.
We can tinker with it.
Victoria?
Again, it says Victoria Farmeyers. Taylor, you got me thinking pathway forward. We talked about pathways in the beginning of this a lot. So, because I think it needs an action verb. I hear what you're saying. I didn't think about that until you said that. I was like, yeah, he's absolutely right. It's like, it needs to, and it needs to sound like, I came up with pathways only because it needs to sound like it's a step by step. We're not going to get there all at once, right? We're going to have to take certain steps, and certain things are going to have to come before other things. So, I don't know, it got me thinking about it. So, Taylor, maybe that got you thinking.
Well, and I appreciate that because, but building kind of does that too. And that's why I was just kind of debating in my mind, what's a better title? I like pathways, I like implementation. Building, obviously, you got to execute, I don't know, something. Have the consultants figure that out.
We'll tinker with, and we'll look at all of the chapter names, especially now, again, that we have the content, the flow is kind of getting adjusted. So, yeah, and anything certainly that's, easy and eye-popping to someone reading it for the first time where it's like, oh, that's definitely the chapter that I want to go to because of X, Y, and Z. All right. Thank y'all. Wasn't the last question, though. Okay. Plan updates and future planning, just kind of building off of those maps. This is all contained in that same chapter. Council in particular was very interested in digging into this table, really looking at prioritizing future plans, updating existing plans, and really just, what do we do next? What do we prioritize first? What are we directing staff to do first? So this has a high level time frame, looking at annual and more frequent reviews. One of the most important there is going to be those annual reports about measuring progress in tandem with the dashboard that we're looking at hopefully building every 2 to 3 years, reviewing those near-term actions with council and what that prioritization looks like. I've heard from y'all that might be a future meeting where we work with y'all to prioritize some of these, the Ideas Lab and the near-term actions, how we fund the vision. So I think we can certainly go back to the MIG and maybe think about how we can be a little bit more articulate with the programs, maybe without, I don't know, we'll see. But, if that's something that we'll be updating every 2 to 3 years, might as well investigate. Every 5 years, big moves in policies, getting back out into the public, understanding what the new challenges and barriers are based on data, what we're not meeting in our measuring progress reports, and so why is that happening? What do we need to look at and change? Our development principles, focus areas again. So, over those initial 5 years, Jincy and I will hopefully have done some work at council's direction, and other departments have done work. And so what do we do next? Code of ordinance updates and other implementation processes. Then at 10 years, we'll do a complete revamp of our vision framework, which is our vision elements and goals. And that, again, would be another very much community-oriented engagement plan. Looking at updating our life cycle and community resilience overlay mapping. At that point, we'll also investigate what, we've been looking at tracking, measuring our progress, saying that we've been making strides here. Well, hopefully, and it should, when we update our life cycle and community resilience overlay, we see those improvements and it becomes part of that traceable, trackable implementation measure as to how we are impacting positively lives here in Arlington. And then the last 20 years, around 2045 to 2047, we begin that full assessment and review of the Innovate Arlington Comprehensive Plan, much like what this process has been with 99 square miles to now Innovate Arlington. But as you will hear Trey, this is the plan of plans. And so, I think we can definitely continue to make sure that that's very clear in this particular chapter, which is part of our implementation volume, but then also making sure that that's clearly echoed at the front of Innovate Arlington within our executive summary. Yes.
Questions? Start with Victoria.
I feel like we keep giving you wish lists. So here we go. On the Code of Ordinances, there's a number of our ordinances that are currently on the books that directly relate to several of our big moves, that also relate directly to our place type overlay. So I don't know how much work has gone into looking at what are the handful of ordinances that may need to be relooked at. I'll give you an example, ADUs. We haven't looked at home-based working, right? There's an ordinance about home-based home offices. That hasn't been looked at for a really long time. So that's just one example that popped in my head, but I'm just thinking, is there a way for us to look at some of the Code of Ordinances and highlight for council which ones might be the most advantageous to work on to allow the vision to unfold the way we want to see it? Just my thoughts.
Thank you. Jincy wanted to comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to refer back to the comment, Victoria, you made a comment about the life cycle overlay mapping, that it shows some of the neighborhoods may be stable right now, but after a few years, that may not be the case. And that is correct. I mean, that map should be an evolving map. as investments happen to some of those investment opportunity areas, it should get into the stable, and some of the stable moves into the advanced, whatever that may be. So it's an evolving map. So one of the items that I was thinking, instead of keeping it for a 10-year update, maybe we should put it on the 5-year update, so we can keep that map more evolving and accurate.
Nina?
I've had this question since we started tonight, and I don't know where this fits in with what we're doing, but I'm thinking about form-based code and how long we've been talking about it, and now we have it. We're not yet doing it. We have it. We're gonna start doing it, and that was what I know of is 2 years. It's probably been longer than that. And so with that in mind, what are the barriers to success, to implementation of this plan? People in building and housing and development love to hate planning and zoning. And I hear a lot of it. And so how long will it take us to work with the committees that we already have in place to make changes so that we can do this and it's an ongoing thing? Again, I'm just looking at barriers to success, barriers to implementation. And so just because we put out this marvelous new plan, this is what we're going to have happen, and then we have a committee of citizens and businesses that say, ha, 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 no, you're not, we're going to stop that. So I need to be able to communicate that, and then the plan needs to be able to communicate that to people who want to come in. How do we address that? That's my question. I don't have an answer, but I'd love to know. Thank you.
Jency?
Yeah, I can try to at least answer a little bit with the form-based zoning. So we got that adopted this year. We have projects already that we are reviewing. So I think it's showing success, and what we've done is, what are the barriers that could be is infrastructure capacity for what is there today in downtown area, in the infrastructure, is the oldest infrastructure we have. And so we have been meeting with Water and Public Works every quarter since the time we started the form-based zoning journey to kind of update, hey, these are the things that's coming in the pipeline. These are the projects that we are hearing of. It's located here, here, here. And that's kind of raising that awareness amongst all those capital improvement project departments to start thinking, what do they need to do? Stormwater is another big, big concern that we have. So how do we increase that stormwater capacity through these are all capital improvement projects. So it has to come in bond programs. All of those are the implementation ways it can be done, but for that, everybody needs to get that awareness of what form-based zoning is going to do and what are the different kind of projects that we are seeing now so that they can plan for. So definitely a lot of interdepartmental effort happening to make this a more successful project.
All right, John, anyone else? Okay.
Any other questions? All right, Jency, I may call you to kind of help present this slide. So I've gotten a lot of comments from the public who come interact with us, and a lot of this is based off of past experiences. Y'all have mentioned this even tonight. How do we make sure this plan is actually actionable, that people are going to follow it, that developers aren't just going to come in and say, I'm still going to do whatever I want, your plan is great. How do we make sure that we, perhaps create a process that creates a stronger link, while this still is a guide, creates a stronger link to decisions that are made in the city council chambers, especially when it comes to amending our preferred growth scenario map, which could be something that takes place during a zoning change application that goes in front of P&Z and city council. So how do we make sure Innovate Arlington is truly something to pause, reflect, truly consider as part of future zoning change. So this will be something that's directed by City Council. This would be a policy that they set and directs Jency and her team, which would include us, to modify a UDC or just create a policy or make sure that something is clearly stated in a certain way within the comprehensive plan. But the goal here is to continue having a conversation with y'all, P&Z, and really City Council on how do we make sure and what does it look like that Innovate Arlington is truly considered and thoughtful through a discretionary process such as a zoning change. So this is just an example of one utilized by Charlotte, North Carolina. There's a variety of examples here in the state of Texas. State statute doesn't require that a comprehensive plan be linked to a zoning change decision. It's up to the municipality to make those decisions and how it's applied, whether it be by policy, by guidance, or truly through a codified ordinance amendment. So, as I mentioned, we've heard from the public that they would like something stronger. We've heard that ensuring a more predictable development process, making sure that our established neighborhoods are protected is something that's valuable. So we see value in this policy direction. So if any of y'all have thoughts or recommendations, certainly open ears, but just want to reiterate, it will be a council decision.
Taylor has a comment.
Yeah, Taylor Oldred. Just a quick comment about, you talked about builders, and I don't speak for all of them, obviously, but anything that is more transparent and predictable for them about whatever our process is, they're going to love that. So the predictability and transparency of this will certainly help that. My question is about what does the council and P&Z do currently for training new P&Z members or new council members? I hear there's retreats, an annual retreat. The council goes somewhere and gets all on the same page about big goals and stuff like that. And I guess maybe what I would recommend is whatever the current process is for educating and bringing up to speed a new P&Z member or city council members, is that this is a required, agenda item in that process already. So we just kind of bake this into the training that they already have. I know P&Z members are council appointed, as many of us were, or I think all of us were. So there's some accountability to that appointment, but I think to the degree that P&Z members are trained and educated is important. And then same with council members. I mean, obviously they're elected by the public, but whatever the training retreat process you have, this should be an agenda item or maybe a section of the morning or afternoon or something like that. That might be a way to get annually, I don't know, maybe I should stop there and say, do you have a retreat every year for the council?
So I was cleaning up my office desk yesterday, and I was looking at when we started talking to council about the Innovate Arlington plan. So my first pitch to the council about, yes, we need to get on this. I know it was spring of 2023, that council retreat, we started talking about where we are, where do we want to get? So, and then it continued. I think I did it for the next two more retreats. So there's a spring council retreat and a fall council retreat. So we do it 2 times a year. And for 3 council retreats, we did talk about just that. That got the whole momentum up, and we had then the budgeted item for comp plan and all that kind of stuff. So it does take a little time to it's only a whole till 2 o'clock, from morning till 2 o'clock. So in that much time, there's not just this, there's so many other items that we want to kind of get them up to speed with, but we do take that time to get them educated on that.
All right. Now I know it's 7:30. I have a very interesting slide next, the zoning analysis, which it is interesting. One more poll, and then I'll have engagement updates, and then we'll have a concluding poll, and then we'll discuss, what that tentative future meeting dates. I'm sorry, two more polls, a concluding poll. We'll discuss future meeting updates and go through that zoning analysis. 30 minutes. Is everyone okay? All right. Thank you all. All right. So, before we move on real quick, do you have any questions or concerns about the plan updates, map updates, or future planning content? I know I've gotten a lot of notes about that 2.7, which are those maps that we want to do some type of transparency thing where we put them together. But any other ideas that have surfaced that we should continue to be thinking about that could also help the public, anything? All right. Place types and zoning analysis. At our council meeting on June 23rd, a great question came up. What is this changing in terms of our zoning? What kind of pockets of potential conflict are we creating between what our existing zoning is and what this vision is for the future? We talked about, and we'll continue to talk about with council, what those discretionary processes look like. And this map and this analysis that we'll continue to refine with y'all will help create a foggy crystal ball as to where council and the public and developers that see this plan might anticipate some future discretionary processes in terms of the vision versus the existing zoning. So this slide shows commonplace type changes from today. This utilized our existing land use map, which is based off of building permits and certificates of occupancy that are issued by the City of Arlington. We have a map that highlights a variety of colors. MIG took that map and created last year they created I can't remember what the map was, but it was part of our phase 2, the business as usual map. So that was essentially this map here. So what the most common changes was from vacant land to some type of designated place type throughout this entire process. The most common change from vacant was to the estate suburban neighborhood. The employment district changed in some regards to the innovative creative district. That's where we've had those conversations and ideas populate where there's strategic areas of our employment districts throughout Arlington, not all of them, where this innovative creative district might unlock some market potential to create some more of adaptive reuse along some of those aging industrial areas and some modest employment living. Estate suburban neighborhood to urban neighborhood, as well as estate suburban neighborhood to neighborhood node. These are intended to provide more predictable, appropriate buffers between our established neighborhoods. In many cases, the urban neighborhood and neighborhood node is halfway there. You'll have the duplexes around downtown Arlington where there's an urban neighborhood, but perhaps on the business as usual plan, it was highlighted as estate suburban. So these make sure that there's a more predictable buffer between our established neighborhoods and more intensive place types, such as something on the other side of that urban neighborhood being a innovation creative district. Commerce hub to mixed use center and urban corridor. This really bubbled up where residents we heard a lot from in strategic areas and corridors where they want more of those walkable, attractive mixed-use centers and urban corridors that aren't just multifamily, but are true mixed use. So this was a transition from those auto-oriented commerce hubs towards a more mixed-use walkable place in terms of what are we trying to envision in some of our aging corridors. Urban neighborhood to mixed-use center, urban corridor, and entertainment cultural destination. This is to provide some more integrated housing rather than potentially disconnected developments. Now, the zoning alignment with our place types. This is a citywide analysis of where it is. We can dive a little bit deeper into just focusing on where the vacant and underutilized land is and what that alignment is. But at a citywide level, the traditional context zone, which is a lot of West Arlington down to the south and North Arlington, 97% of the existing zoning is in alignment with the plan's vision. This is indicative that the plan is establishing support for neighborhood preservation. The 3% misalignment is generally pockets of future neighborhood nodes. That's due to a lot of the feedback that we've received where at key intersections that aren't just necessarily a local residential street crossing another local residential street, but key true intersections where a neighborhood node might be able to go that's appropriate based on the existing context. That's where a lot of that rub comes from. So those will likely be future items that are discussed by council. But that 3% also includes the vision that, we don't want multifamily in our established single-family residential neighborhoods, and we don't necessarily want the less dense but still dense RM12 zoning. So that 3% is actually represents a partial positive toward meeting that vision. Connected context, very similar to the traditional context zone, 95% alignment. Still continues to support that neighborhood preservation. Generally, that misalignment is again with those neighborhood nodes, but on the positive side, that 5% also includes existing industrial multifamily zoning, which isn't generally something that's supportive in a lot of the place types that you would find in the connected context zone and the traditional context zone. Central context zone, this one has the most transformative potential. With 81% aligned with the plan's vision. There's a lot of ideas about what could happen here in downtown and between the entertainment district and along I-30. So this has the most opportunity to build towards that vision. If you recall, there was about 50% housing capacity in the central context zone as well when we were talking about that, just illustrating again that there's a lot of potential with the appropriate planning, which is highlighted in our future planning map that we can continue to unlock in this area of Arlington. That 19% misalignment generally includes the industrial IM zoning districts as well as the less dense RS 7.2 zoning. That doesn't mean those houses are against the vision. It's just indicative that as more investment comes into the central context zone, that zoning might be replaced with something that's truly in alignment with the place type in that area. And then the Innovation Creative District represented the most transformational potential as a place type alone.
Question, go ahead.
Hi, Victoria Farmeyers. Am I hearing that the place types, as we have created them, could potentially help us not be so challenged by SB 840?
No, because this doesn't entitle anyone to not be entitled to Senate Bill 840. So Senate Bill 840 and zoning, full entitlements. They can look at the plan, but if they follow the code of ordinances that was adopted by council about all the development regulations that go into being approved for Senate Bill 840 development outside of a planned development zoning district, they would be entitled to that. But if they go through a discretionary process at all, if they need to waiver from any of the development standards that are in place today, then Innovate Arlington, depending on the ultimate policy that council sets, would be part of that review process.
But theoretically, hypothetically speaking, if council was to take movement and action on acceptance of these place types as more of a form-based, potentially that could alleviate some of that pressure, hypothetically speaking.
Yes, I think this plan establishes a more focused direction on where to strategically place that type of development, not letting it just go everywhere.
That's what I was asking, the
Yes.
proliferation. Thank you so much, appreciate it.
I want to answer your question on the next page. Yes, this is the best map I've seen yet. Fantastic. I love it. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I also want to acknowledge that this is possibly the most contentious for the people that this affects, for whatever their reason. And I think our responsibility to understand it is tremendous, because that allows us to exemplify that we have thought about it and that the city has a plan and that working together, it could be very beneficial. But for that 0.1% of people who it is going to affect, it could be devastating. And how we address that is going to require the utmost respect and also compassion to make it work. So I understand why we're just now getting this. It makes a lot of sense to me. So thank you. It's a great map. Thanks.
Michael.
Mike Talambas, I guess this is where I make a comment about the preferred growth map. And we've talked about this before in some of my comments. My major concern here is the way we've defined the context zones. And if I understand correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, but within a context zone and in a state suburban neighborhood, duplexes, quadplexes, and triplexes, or maybe not the primary housing type, but it is a supporting housing type, which in just the traditional zone, duplexes, quadplexes, and triplexes would not be even a supporting type. So any of the estate suburban areas that are within the context zone, to me, looking at the map, would potentially allow duplexes, or what we call the missing middle, right? And so therefore, I would like to advocate that we drill down on our boundaries of our context zones. For instance, in Southwest Arlington, the context zone includes Overland Stage neighborhood, which is a single-family, really nice, single-family, older, but really nice single-family neighborhood. But that's included in the context zone and supporting duplexes and triplexes. And then pretty much all of Arlington east of Bowen Road is in a context zone. That would include the Hannah subdivision of Arlington, which is a single-family neighborhood. So I just would I think we have too much of our estate suburban neighborhoods in the context zone. So I'd like to see something drawn on that, because if we're saying we're trying to protect neighborhoods, existing single-family housing neighborhoods, allowing so much of Arlington to be within a context zone for a state suburban, I think that we need to rethink that and narrow that down to actually protect our neighborhoods on that. Yeah, that's my comment.
So Mike definitely thought a lot about what you have been saying, and we've been looking at the whole play step. So I don't think this is there in front of y'all, because we are still in the draft stage of thinking through it. But what we've really got is in each context zone. So if it's a traditional context zone, we have put all the place types here and all the zoning districts on this and kind of come up with in this traditional context zone, the place type estate suburban is allowing to go in which zoning districts. And you're right, RM12 is currently in the draft showing as it would be allowed. And that's what you're pointing out. And so we've put a pink circle there for us to start looking at the whole map and trying to figure out if the RM12 should go away from that context zone and only be placed in the connected context zone. So that's one way to think about it. What you are talking about is the connected context zone itself, that zone, should we change it? But we were looking at it a little differently to try to see in the traditional context zone, should we take out RM12? So we're going to do a little bit more work on that, but right path. I mean, your thoughts are definitely well taken, and we are trying to figure that out.
Yeah, thanks, Jincy. And once again, just kind of, maybe it looks like in some areas of the map, we've just arbitrarily drawn a circle. And maybe if we could better define that by edges of the neighborhood that are single-family homes, like to exclude the overland stage. You know, right now it's kind of incorporated because it looks like it's just an arbitrary circle that was drawn around South I-20 and Green Oaks. Things like that. I just kind of want to better define those zones. Thank you.
I think something else that we've also been talking a lot about that I think the plan to create a more predictable conversation as well in terms of future development applications and zoning changes is zoning itself does protect a neighborhood's spot zoning. Someone coming into a middle of a neighborhood going from a RS 7.2, which is generally in East Arlington, and applying for RM12 zoning right in the middle. The plan vision wouldn't support that, neither would generally legal parameters. Spot zoning is typically something that's deemed illegal. So I think what we can probably do to essentially ensure that that type of zoning action is more predictable in terms of that's not what this plan is intending to do, will help strategically steer and guide where those types of zoning changes could go. I think Chair brought up a really good idea of maybe streamlining some of the narratives around supporting land uses and providing a little bit more spatial guidance as to what do you mean supportive? Is this a supportive land use that's to be expected in the middle of a neighborhood, or something that's maybe more along a major corridor where that added traffic isn't going to the middle of the neighborhood, it's right there at the exit. So I think some of that language will help streamline the conversations, make it more predictable and known up front what our expectations are, and then we'll continue to look at the context zone map. I think it's intended to be kind of more bubble so that we really take into account, yes, this is a context zone map, but what we should really focus on is the context of the area where a development application is being considered. So it's more of a guidance like, it's kind of like right there on the verge. It's pretty close to traditional. When I look at an aerial, it's traditional, makes more sense. But I think we can look at where it's very realistic to really tighten up those corridors or those connected context zones. Anything else? Yeah.
I'm just trying to, I don't live in Overland Stage, but you know, if I did, and I was familiar with this map and I saw my house in this zone, I think that I would be pretty concerned about what the potential could be in my neighborhood. And so I'm just trying to fend off any of those types of concerns from someone that sees that their house is in a certain area.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's well warranted, and I think a lot of those district maps that we're going to create for the town halls will really also help those conversations truly bubble to the surface so that we can make those adjustments as well. All right. So is this breakdown of the types of changes and place types in zoning helpful? What questions or concerns do you have about the common changes? And if anyone, so those were the common changes, and then this was that zoning analysis.
I think they gave you comments on that already.
Okay, perfect. All right, phase 3 engagement. I'm so excited to get the plan out. I completely understand and also feel a little hesitant. It's a lot. I think the videos are going to be helpful for those who really want to dig into this plan, which I think many will, and the videos will definitely be helpful. But it's a starting point. I don't want us to be fearful of it. Much like we've done in this room, we're going to continue to listen to our public, listen to y'all, provide those updates. This plan is nowhere near adopted, but we at least have something to work with and have those conversations. So I'm very much looking forward to the public engagement and the town halls, working with y'all, the commission, and council. So looking ahead, August 6th is going to be really like our go live date. That's when we plan to publish the plan online using the commenting software or portal. I don't know if that's the better word, Conveo. Unlike what y'all had with Conveo, where you didn't see anyone's comments, couldn't see anything, it will be all public. So everyone will be able to see others' comments. They'll be able to like and dislike and make comments. So it'll be hopefully a great experience. We'll have those in-person town halls with additional pop-ups. August 25th, we'll provide another council work session, kind of some of the initial findings as to what we're hearing. September 1st, we'll do a big virtual town hall. That's been published a lot over the last few weeks, and we have a reservation link out. I'll plan to send y'all some social media material that you can share, as well as pointing you to where the city has already shared materials, if just hitting that share button is efficient enough, which it is. September 17th, that will be the meeting that we're tentatively looking at, where we will come back to y'all and discuss that public feedback and what changes then came on. We'll talk a little bit here in a moment about a tentative August meeting with y'all if that's so desired. And then October through whatever the process leads us, we'll continue to refine the plan with all of our elected and appointed officials, ultimately until we start feeling, and y'all start feeling, and council starts feeling, and the community starts feeling that this is our plan. And then we will start going through those adoption hearings. So, final poll. This is kind of not final poll, sorry. So, this is about community engagement. Do you have any concerns about community engagement to date? And then are there any other types of engagement, groups, or people to reach out to during the phase 3 engagement that we really need to be aware of?
Taylor?
Yeah, Taylor Oldroyd, question. What type of materials will be available to the public during the town hall meetings? I ask in part because I felt a little bit guilty when I asked for my copy. I knew it was just a draft, and I'll be honest, I didn't realize how many color pages, and there's just a lot. So I felt a little bit guilty there. And then with the public, I'm just worried that we're going to be just printing nonstop, and it's just we're still drafting it. So I just that's my question is. I certainly want to make materials available to the public during this process, but I mean, what is your plan of what's available for them during that time?
Definitely not going to uselessly use more trees to just kind of create big textbooks where we go, read it. That's what the online version is for, to point people to there when they really want to dig into it, leave comments. The town halls, there will be a very high-level, robust, but not too detailed, an overwhelming presentation about what this plan is, where we're going, what our direction looks like, methods in which the plan will be held accountable, items like that. And then we will have poster boards like we've had at other workshops that just kind of really bring those big conversation components to life. One of the bigger items, now that we have a lot of policy items, we have our ideas lab is really making sure that that's up in front with the community members to ensure that we're highlighting to them that we have heard you through phase 1 and phase 2 on all these ideas and how they've kind of come together to finish out that vision framework. So. And then pop-ups won't be as big. There'll be a couple of posters. It's more conversation, getting people to the website, telling them about the remaining town halls that are available to them. It won't be as robust.
Yes, Carlton.
Yeah, good evening. I do see the pop-ups there, and I know the thought of being kind of bringing this to the people, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So will there be a pop-up available at the Arlington Back to School event that's upcoming?
Yes, we will be there next Saturday,
Good, good.
8 a.m. Well, actually earlier than that. Yes, we've been working with AISD to ensure that we have a presence there. We will be an end cap vendor so that we're up front and center. So we'll have all the information about all the town halls, how to connect with us, and what the plan is.
Will this document be keyword searchable for the public? And will we have kiosks where they can ask it things? And AI interactive. So if someone doesn't want to read the whole thing, they can say, tell me about where my nearest park is going to be, or something like that. Because I didn't even think about it until just now. I'm going to load it all in and ask it silly questions and see what it tells me from the documents.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you. When I got the online version, I'm like, how can I get this thing off of that and into ChatGPT to help me understand what it says? So that would be, a nice thing. But the way it's set up, I don't believe you can copy and paste the document. But
We have the word.
if it's a
this is all
PDF,
text.
maybe you could. But on our secret version that we had, unpublished version, it was impossible.
To answer that, Conveo will be completely searchable, so you'll be able to type in those keywords that you're looking for, and it'll tell you like all those pages, and you can just go, like in a Word document. I do like that idea though about maybe bringing a computer to these town halls and allowing people to ask questions with staff supervisory because something may just pop up and it's like, oh, it's not exactly accurate, but no, I think that's a fabulous idea to incorporate that. So yeah, I'll definitely get with IT on how we can load something like that.
And if it can just be loadable on the city website and people can integrate right there, then they can do that while they're waiting at a doctor's appointment and ask it questions if there's a way to have them married together in a public space so that you don't have to be a Chat or Claude or anything subscriber. That is, to me, the ultimate in transparency, but also with the caveat that it could be wrong.
Yeah.
To get the most accurate answer for who you are, read the whole document, some
Yeah.
kind of disclaimer.
That would be my only concern because you don't know who that gets shared to, and then it's like
Yeah,
trying to contain something that's completely wrong.
Anthony had a question.
Yes, Anthony Powell. Taking off of what Robert mentioned earlier, I'm wondering as we do these down hall by district, will we have the opportunity to create that district-specific information or kind of the overlay that we were talking about? Because, obviously each district's going to be most concerned about what impacts them. So if we can get those created ahead of time for each town hall, I think that could be really helpful.
Are you talking about the spreads or just the maps of information about place types, context zones, developable and vacant land, just to kind of understand what might be popping up?
Well, I think kind of the catalytic projects, I think, first comes to mind type of thing, where or how that shows or is impacted by district. But then, to your point, some of the other things would be helpful as well. I mean, it's a balance between information providing information overload so that, you got stars in your eyes and, somebody, again, who hasn't seen this before says, what is all this? But so I guess my initial reaction is to think about starting with the catalytic projects or the key things that would be impactful in a particular district, and then maybe having the other information available, place types and so forth, so that if either the conversation goes in that direction or if we feel like that's needed, it's available, but it may not all get presented at once, because otherwise I think you'll just kind of, confuse.
Yeah. Victoria?
Victoria Farr-Myers. What about the idea of focus groups, smaller focus groups, where you bring in experts like a developer group, a realtor group, groups that are interested in sustainability and environmental. I'm thinking like bring in the council of PTAs, because they're going to be really interested in those neighborhoods and those schools and how that impacts. I'm just trying to think of how we can intentionally create some groups that have very concentrated interest in particular areas and talk with them. And I'm a firm believer that in a good debate, what everybody has to say, right? And so I just would love to stress test it against the experts in those particular areas. So if we can do something to, talking about bringing it to the people, right? Let's create those groups and say, we invite you to help us with this part. So, and I'd be happy to help with that. I mean, I'm sure we all can do that, but I just really think that that's very important, because I know a lot of times we have town halls and not a lot of people can come, or, I really want some expert eyes, maybe even partnering with the Chamber of Commerce, and asking them to have just a session where you come and they can have a roundtable there. I'm trying to think of all the major organizations and groups that we have that you could really, and again, it doesn't have to be a focus group like 10 people, because I know that's the obvious, but it's like a smaller group of people who have intimate knowledge in particular areas that are going to really drive down into that. And I would love to stress test it that way.
Yes. Bruce?
Yeah, Bruce Dalton. So what is the medium that we're using to communicate all this out to the citizens, and how are you able to measure the success of reaching the residents of Arlington?
Social media, our mailing notifications, the 3 things to know going around Arlington.
Well, how many people are we actually reaching with that?
We've reached the entire city through utility mailers, tens of thousands through our social media, but we can track all of that.
So we're able to track the people who are actually aware of this?
Yes,
Okay.
through their interactions
Okay.
with the shared material.
Okay.
Yes, Robert?
Robert Snyder. And Victoria, I think that's a great idea that you had about how to engage some of those key stakeholders. I think the chamber would be an incredible resource. They have so many connections. I think that it's important to get with these companies like Texas Health Resources, GM, DR Horton, Trademark, these people who have these large stakes, who bring in so many members, so many employees, and I would challenge all of us to talk to the people we know. It's just, I think having that executive summary, the map, and say, here's where we are. You've probably already been talked to about this. You've probably already seen something about this, but here's where we are. Here's how it might affect you. What are your thoughts? And yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Anyone else? I think that's a wonderful idea. I think you would have to narrow it down and instead of giving them the entire plan, you give them a segment that would be, this is in more their wheelhouse. So it's not a focus group of overwhelm. And so, but I think it's a great idea. Right. Anyone else? Taylor?
Well, just Taylor Aldridge, the thought on that is also, you wouldn't want any last minute roadblocks of groups popping up saying, hey, sorry, we're late to the game, but we don't like this because we haven't heard anything about it. So it would certainly get some more buy-in and prevent some last minute opposition.
I'm all game for that.
Whatever you do, it leads to something else, no matter how you slice it. So that's true. All right, anyone else? Oh, yes, Robert.
Sorry, I just wanted to say one more thing. I do want to thank the public for being here. Several of you have been here at countless meetings, and we really appreciate your input and feedback, and it's super important to us getting to where we need to be. So thank you all.
I appreciate you too, and I was real pleased that we pleased Mr. Nagy. He had his details down. That was very impressive. Very, very impressive. All right, anything else on this? Okay.
All right. So tentative future meeting dates, I mentioned September 17th is already on the calendars, where we're going to be coming back with MIG to highlight all of the recommended changes based on the town halls and the focus groups and everything in between. August 20th is the third Thursday in August, I open it to y'all to help us determine if that is a meeting that is needed, or if we just kind of need to get to work and come back to y'all on September 17th, and I can email updates in the meantime.
Well, if we, Bruce Dalton, if we meet on August 20th, what would the agenda look like? What would we be trying to accomplish?
That's what this discussion would be, to kind of help determine what that agenda might look like and if this meeting is needed. Otherwise, we will prepare items for September 17th.
Would we have problems getting a quorum, being that that's real close to back to school? Just a question. You're out, so that would be something for us to consider. So if we did skip, it would give more time if we did it on the 17th, but I wouldn't want to. I would love to have a meeting because we've got a long thing. We've got many, many things we need to discuss here in just a minute about future agenda items. But also, we've got to have time to do these town halls and get more input. Thoughts on that? Nina?
I think we absolutely have a meeting on August 20th. I think this is the most important time for us to meet because we are going to be talking to our community and the public and stakeholders. And we have to talk about what we're hearing because I have my own personal experience, life, agenda, why I'm here. And it's very different than Taylor's. It's very different than Michael's. And we can't just look through our own lens. It's a very important time for us to be hearing what you're hearing. I need to know, because we all do different things in the world. So I think it's a critical meeting for these are who I've talked to, this is what people are talking about, or nobody cares. We need to know all of that. And so I think a collaboration, and I can't really do that in a small number and get a bigger picture. So to me, it is critical.
Let's do a quick little straw poll of how many people would come on an August meeting. I mean, where are we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We have 11. So I would propose, if the group would agree, that we go ahead and have a meeting in August, as well as September 17th.
So it would be done.
Okay. Victoria?
Mr. Chair, real quick, in preparation for August 20th, if you do get feedback on any of these, if you could just, you do a wonderful job of sharing your emails with us, of just like a little summary of like what you're hearing, because that will also help us sort of be talking to our groups and being able to do that. And then if there's a way for us to do some of those focus groups earlier in that timeline. And then also, last thing, we threw a lot at you tonight. So anything that you have in terms of the feedback of the comments that we gave to you, if you could bring those back on the 20th, that would be really helpful. And thank you, Mr. Chair, for indulging that request.
You are welcome. So, yes, Mike?
Will there be another planning and zoning orientation on this plan before the 20th meeting?
I can't remember the dates. It's either August or September.
I think August 19th is the PNC meeting.
Okay.
That's when we were going to have a quick update.
Okay. And then my other question is, do we need to notify you if we plan to attend any of the district forums
Great question. We will post possible quorum notices for each of the town halls. So no need to notify, but all are welcome.
Okay. All right. So we need to talk about future agenda items. And I have a list, but who would like to suggest a future agenda item for the next meeting? Okay, you've got one. Okay, well, we have a bunch.
Got them like scattered.
So did you make, so the list of ideas that we had, I mean, John, if y'all have notes on these, we wanted to talk about a deck park, we want to talk about measurements, railroad crossings, land use tables. Victoria wanted to look at long-term goals and catalyst projects in different areas of the city, and goal setting and benchmarks. And those were some ideas. And also, another idea for an agenda item would be what we can do to help educate our council, which we may not need to do. On a side note, we encourage everyone to reach out to your council person and set up a meeting with them. That'd be really helpful before they do their town halls. So does anyone have any suggestions for these town hall meetings? That could be any of those. No? Okay. Yes.
Maybe Taylor Oldred, not specifically related to your question, but how do you want, if we found a typo in this, do we get like a prize or something, or do we?
You're going to get lots of prizes.
Right, prizes.
There's a few.
I'm not sure I found a typo per se, but just a format thing. Do we just share it with you, or
Yeah.
how do we?
You can either take a screenshot or just send it to me, and we'll make sure that that's plugged in correctly.
I'm sure it's Jincy's fault, I'm sure. Yeah.
All right.
Can I quickly say, I just want to make sure there's some realistic expectations. So for August 20th, I don't think we'll be able to go to every focus group. I think we have a developers roundtable sometime during this time, so I think we should be able to get to them. Taylor, if you can help us get with the Realtor group, the Arbor, that might be wonderful. Chamber of Commerce, we will go to them. I don't know whether we'll get a meeting ready before the August 20th. So I'm just giving y'all heads up on maybe we won't reach everybody by that time. And with the 5 town hall meetings, we'll be busy just preparing for that. So we may not be able to get to every item that y'all have mentioned today, but we'll be thinking about it, and whatever we come up with, we'll start sending it your way.
So maybe on that note, for kind of maybe setting some expectations, what are those priority items that y'all definitely want us to come back to you on August 20th that we've kind of discussed?
Well, yeah, I mean, we can take my list and see what makes the most sense. The over Highway Park would be something that, would y'all like to discuss that? And you can maybe bring us more insight on that?
Can I quickly ask? So the deck park is what we're talking about, right? What I heard was keep the language in the plan to be more assertive and not just say we're just studying these kind of thing, but how are we going to get there is what y'all are looking for. Is that correct?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
Well, and Taylor Oldred, and perhaps a time frame on that. I mean, I'm not opposed to a deck park, but I don't think that's, next year. That's, sometime thing, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I'm not a transportation expert like Bill, and I could see some benefit of it, but I think there's maybe some lower hanging fruit that could be a little bit, some quicker wins, because I think that as we talk about implementation and some of these big wins, I think some early victories, whether they're small or big, helps this momentum through the whole plan. I think the worst case scenario for this is we don't see any progress on anything right away. So
So what's
I think
your,
the deck part's there, but it's not an early, easy win.
maybe would be,
Yeah, for sure.
maybe we might be too specific, maybe because, really we could just strengthen the language maybe and make it more suggestive, and we could have it.
Connections or something.
We could have a discussion about it, but, so those were my list. I've really got to go through the group and see what y'all want to have on the next agenda. Yes, John?
I think something that we can do, because a lot of it's here, is the prioritization of our near-term actions, providing some updates on that breadcrumbing. I think there's definitely some effective work that could take place between now and August 20th, because a lot of it's here. That would be maybe my recommendation. It could cover a lot of the items as well. Maybe not substantively as to what it says, but at least get us to a point where we understand this is what we need to really make sure the language is concrete on.
That's why we have you, a professional, to make it all sound so easy. I agree with that. We could have some of these items we could talk about, but yeah, that'd be great.
Ken?
Yes,
Taylor Oldroyd, I definitely want to make sure we see Nina's overlay map.
That was Nina Henderson. That is not what I was going to say. I would like for us to really be ready for our presentation to City Council. It seems like we have some momentum about being present with our counselors between now and then. I love that. But I would like for us to give them the language of what's going to be effective to make this actually a reality. So I don't know if that's our job to come up with how we're going to present it to council, but I do agree that it was too much when we did, and we need to do a better job so that they can communicate with our community about it.
Maybe in the spirit of pressure testing, we have our city council work session with them on August 25th. So maybe we
Yes.
present some of the materials that we're preparing for them to y'all as kind of a stress test for what's coming up for them.
That's a good idea. Yes, Taylor?
Sorry, Taylor Oldroyd, maybe my last comment. I was mistaken. It's the council work session on the 25th that I'm out of town, that I'll be here on the 20th, so I will be annoying all of you on the 20th, but not the 25th.
Okay, sounds good. Is there any other business? Are we ready to adjourn? Y'all put in a long night tonight? No, we have more? We're going to do a poll.
Just a quick room discussion. We're not going to do that CPSC poll. That was a Mentimeter, so it's really the focus on the bottom. So you can include and think about some of those bullets at the top. How supportive are you feeling about the plan as it stands? What would help to feel more supportive? Well, we've gotten a lot of notes about how we can start accomplishing that in a more positive direction from here. What topics or types of discussions would you like to ensure we touch on in our next few meetings? We just went over that, but just want to get a sense from the room as to, are we feeling more positive right now, more negative, more neutral, more work to do? So any thoughts that y'all can provide us, it'll just really continue to help us make this plan correct.
I think the plan is building momentum. It's been such a huge task for y'all, and it's going to get better and better as we go on, and it's not an easy job. So my thoughts are we're going to make it better than it is, but it's got a great start. I'm pleased myself. Anybody else comments?
Sure. Oh, I agree. I think it's a great document, and thank y'all for all your hard work that you've put in. Luckily, this is something that's continuously evolving. It will be over the next several years, and so if we notice things, we can always change them later. But yeah, just thank y'all for all your work. I think it's a great doc.
I know I said a lot tonight. So the phrase that comes to my mind is constant continuous improvement. And I think to approach this next phase, not as this is the draft, but this is a draft, And what we are inviting now is a larger conversation. And for us to be really intent on listening to that and making sure that when we talk to our constituents or when we talk to our friends and whomever we're talking with, or when we're out doing presentations, that that they know that their voice is very important to help us reach the finality of this. So I guess that's the one thing I wanted to say tonight. This is an ongoing conversation. And I want people not to look at it and go, oh, here's a draft, and that's it. I want them to know this is the start, constant, continuous improvement. So, but phenomenal job done. Just make it more Arlington. I want to see Innovate Arlington. I want to see it shine.
Anthony?
Anthony Powell, I'll just add the comment that you make a great point, Victoria. I think the initial view of the presentation in its draft form is so developed and so extensive that the initial feedback from certain people might be, well, this is a done deal, so what I think doesn't matter. And I think that's what we really have to emphasize throughout these town halls and throughout these conversations is your input does still matter, and that we are still adopting and adapting the plan, as opposed to them thinking, okay, yeah, this is just kind of, you're just asking for my rubber stamp. No, we're asking for more than that.
Correct.
Carlton, Washington. No, I'm glad that tonight we kind of took some steps to make it more digestible by thinking highlights and highlights by districts and things of that nature. I think when we have those conversations, it makes it a lot less robust and it'll allow them to kind of see the vision, is a better way to put it, of what we're trying to accomplish. And then it's a lot easier, even if they want to combat those things, it's a lot smaller thing to discuss versus looking at this holistic thing that we've been looking at for months. So I'm excited about the progress, and thank you all for the hard work.
Mike?
I think you've gotten a lot of good comments tonight, a lot of substantive comments, and I expect you to get a lot more over the next month as you head this out to the public and talk to the planning and zoning and the council again, and so that I could just see we talked about this being overwhelming for us, but I think the data that you're going to be receiving from the public and everybody, that might be a little bit overwhelming for you guys to digest and make changes to to reflect all the information that you're gathering. Hopefully, you'll be available to take maybe a step back or some flexibility in the timeline to, maybe add in another month there to give yourself some time to get it right and get everything incorporated before you're going to expect planning and zoning and our committee to make a recommendation and that. So just give yourself some time. We don't have to be January 2027 and we have to have it done because we've been going after this for a long time and, another month is fine.
Yeah. We intentionally removed all of the remaining dates. I have that on my project tracker, but that's just so that I can be proactive. One other item for the future agenda, just want to make sure, is the place type updates. So we'll bring forward some of that information as well, which would be baked into probably to that council, but we'll probably go into a little bit more detail with y'all as to what those updates are, and then kind of just let council be aware of what those were. All right.
Okay. Being that there's no further business, we'll adjourn this meeting at 8:19.